Pedagogy of Environmental Studies. Unit 2. Understanding, Teaching and Learning EVS from the Perspective of Learners. Jean Piaget. Piaget was born on the 9th of August 1896 and died on the 16th of September 1980 in Switzerland at the age of 84. Piaget was a Swiss psychologist who believed that children construct and understand the world around them, experience discrepancies between what they already know and what they discover in their environment and then adjust ideas accordingly. Moreover, he claimed that cognitive development is at the center of human organism. Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Piaget's theory of cognitive development focuses on how learners interact with their environment to develop complex reasoning and knowledge. If you have ever been around a toddler, it's amazing to witness the growth and development of knowledge over the course of weeks and months. As children interact with their environment and new objects, they learn and develop ideas. Piaget theory, which is influenced by ideas, which help him to develop his basic assumptions, which form the foundation of his theory. These ideas are as follows. The first is intelligence, which constructs the structure it needs to function. The second is knowledge, which is the interaction between the individual and the environment. The third is the growth of intelligence, which is influenced by four factors: physical environment, social environment, maturation, and equilibration. Basic assumptions of Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Piaget's theory of cognitive development has the following basic assumptions. The first assumption is that children are active and motivated learners. Children will seek out information to help them make sense of their world. For example, when a child encounters a new toy, instead of passively observing the toy, the child will engage with it, possibly dropping it, touching it, or even tasting it. The second assumption is that children construct knowledge from their experiences. Children don't have isolated bits of information, but instead they build and construct knowledge based on their experiences and observations. For example, a child constructs knowledge about animals by interacting with them, observing them, learn how they work, and learning what sounds they make. The third assumption is that children learn through two processes: assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation deals with a new event in a way that is consistent with an existing schema. Accommodation is a process of dealing with new information or events by either modifying an existing schemas or forming a new one. The fourth assumption of Piaget's cognitive development theory is that interaction with one's physical and social environment is essential for cognitive development. According to Piaget, experimenting and manipulating physical objects is the main way of how children learn. For example, playing with new objects and toys and experimenting with them are ways to develop child's knowledge. The fifth assumption deals with equilibrium. Equilibrium is the state where learners can experience new events with existing schemas. Piaget's stages of cognitive development. Piaget proposed four stages of cognitive development: the sensory motor, the pre-operational, the concrete operational, and the formal operational. Let us learn these stages briefly one by one. The sensory motor stage begins from birth up to 2 years. The sensory motor stage is the first of the four stages in cognitive development, which extends from birth up to the acquisition of knowledge. In this stage, infants progressively construct knowledge and understanding of the world by coordinating experiences such as vision and hearing with physical interactions with objects such as grasping, sucking, stepping, etc. Infants gain knowledge of the world from the physical action they perform within it. By the end of the sensory motor stage, children develop a permanent sense of self and object. Piaget divided the sensory motor stage into six sub-stages. Number one, simple reflexes, that is from birth up to 6 weeks. Number two, first habits and primary circular reaction phase from 6 weeks up to 4 months. Number three, secondary circular reaction phase from 4 months to 8 months. Number four, coordination of secondary circular reaction stages from 8 months to 12 months. Number five, tertiary circular reactions, novelty and curiosity from 12 months to 18 months. Number six, internalization of schemas from 18 months to 24 months. According to Piaget, pre-operational stage starts from 2 years up to 7 years. The pre-operational stage starts when the child begins to learn to speak at the age 2 and lasts till the age of 7. During the pre-operational stage, children do not yet understand concrete logic and cannot mentally manipulate information. However, the child still has trouble seeing things from different points of view. The child play is primarily categorized by symbolic play and manipulating symbols. The pre-operational stage is further split into two substages. Number one, the symbolic function substage, and number two, the intuitive thought substage. The symbolic function substage is when children are able to understand, represent, remember, and picture objects in their mind without having the object in front of them. The intuitive thought substage is when children tend to propose the question of why and how and so on. This is the stage when children want to understand everything. The concrete operational stage starts from 7 up to 11 years. The concrete operational stage occurs between the age of 7 and 11 years, that is pre-adolescence, and is characterized by the appropriate use of logic. During this stage, a child's thought processes become more matured and adult-like. They start solving problems in a more logical fashion. During concrete operational stage, children are able to incorporate inductive reasoning, that is, drawing inferences from observation in order to make a generalization. In contrast, children struggle with deductive reasoning, which involves using a generalized principle in order to try to predict the outcome of an event. Formal operational stage starts from 11 years and onward. The final stage is known as the formal operational stage. Intelligence is demonstrated through the logical use of symbols related to abstract concepts. At this point, the child is capable of hypothetical and deductive reasoning. Classroom implication of Piaget's theory. Piaget takes a constructive point of view and believes that learners are not passive in their knowledge. He emphasizes that learning takes place as a result of active engagement of learners. So teachers have to see that learners takes an active role by participating in whatever is being taught and learned. There are many practical applications that can be made from Piaget's theory. By using them in our teaching, we can hopefully teach students in a way that will help them be the most effective learners. Sensory motor stage, or the stage of activities for infants and toddlers. This stage is characterized by the lack of language and internal representation. In this stage of development, the child eventually develops primary circular reactions, which are activities centered on the child's body and repetitious in nature. As teachers and parents, we should provide a rich, stimulating environment by allowing the child to play with toys that squeak when squeezed. There are toys like rubber duck which make sound when the child squeezes. The child will be surprised by the sound and why it happened. But after some time, the child will realize that by squeezing the toy, they are the one causing the noise. This is an example of cause and effect relationship. That is, if I squeeze the dog, it will squeak or make sound. Pre-operational stage, or the stage of activity for toddlers and early childhood. This stage is in effect when children are about 2 to 7 years old. The characteristics of the stage include an increase in language ability, symbolic thought, and limited logic. In this stage, children should be engaged with problem-solving tasks that incorporate available materials such as blocks, sand, and water. One way to do this is by playing dress up and encouraging the child to take on a character. Children in this age group enjoy playing house. This is also a good activity because they are playing different roles that they have observed in their own lives. As teacher, hands-on activities should also be facilitated at this time. And one way to teach is by engaging them to use cutout letters to build words. concrete operational stage, or the stage of activities for middle childhood. One activity that a child at this stage would enjoy is cooking activity with their mums or dad at home. Children around this age group usually really enjoy helping out in the kitchen, especially baking. Baking involves measurement, which would be useful to the concept of conservation. As teacher, we should give children the chance to manipulate objects and test out ideas by doing simple experiments with the participation of the students. Formal operational stage, or the stage of activities for adolescents. This period is characterized by applying their logic directly to real objects or situations. Teachers should continue using strategies and materials used in the concrete operational stage. Use of charts and illustrations, as well as incorporate new more sophisticated graphs and diagrams while teaching. Give step-by-step explanations and materials. Children in this stage should be encouraged to work in groups in schools to explain and discuss hypothetical topics. Let them write a short story on hypothetical topics such as what life would be like in outer space. This allows the child to apply their new creative aspects. Students should also be encouraged to explain how they solve a problem. To summarize, we have learned how Piaget's theory is influenced by ideas which help him to develop his basic assumptions and which form the foundation of his theory. We also learn about Piaget's stages of cognitive development, that is, the sensory motor stage, which is divided into 6 substages, the pre-operational stage, which is divided into 2 substages, the concrete operational stage and the formal operational stage. We also learn about the classroom implications of Piaget's theory. Thank you.